Good morning. So this has been kind of in the background in awareness for many, many years, but not actually happened so far. But now these groups are up and running and people are kind of wanting access to stuff to be able to go back and look at. For some reason, the fact that you guys are wanting this is now allowing these videos to potentially happen, or at least this one right in this moment. So I'm just going to free flow as always and just see what kind of comes out. And it's going to be, I'm just going to do an introductory video about the story here and how that kind of supposedly unfolded in that pretend thing that we call time, but we'll get to that later. So I'm Zoe, supposedly, and many years ago now, just after my daughter was born, who was 13, a guy walked into my front room and I didn't know at all ever. He came with a friend for a cup of tea and to kind of hang out. And he walked into my front room and sat on my sofa and told me that I didn't exist and that the self that I believed in was not real and that the person that I thought I was actually just an illusion and was nothing more than imagination. And in that moment, my head felt like it completely exploded. At first it went silent. And in that silence, there was an absolute knowing with absolute certainty and clarity that what he was saying was absolutely correct. And after that silence, thought came in and went ballistic. And over the next few weeks or months, every single idea that I had about myself and my life was broken down. Being married, being a mom, the job I was doing, the lifestyle I was leading, everything I believed about my personality. And it was pretty intense. And for the first couple of weeks, felt like I was having some kind of psychotic break. It was really traumatic. Prior to this, the only kind of contact I'd had with any form of spirituality or religion in any way whatsoever was through working a 12-step program. And so the term higher power had been on my radar. But other than this, I knew nothing about non-duality. I knew nothing about yoga. I knew nothing about any kind of actual, anything else to do with spirituality in any way, shape, or form. So after this began to happen, that was when I started to read. That was when I started to watch videos. That was when I started to, research what was going on and go back to him on the phone again and again, what's happening and, what's going on. And so what's happened since then over those years has been a really deep inquiry into thought and what it says and why it says it, and if that's necessary and real and true. And what's happened is through that inquiry, through that questioning, through that breakdown of those structures, it got to a point a few years ago where so much of it had stopped operating because it had been seen through as nothing more than just beliefs and opinions and ideas, that it was so evident that my whole existence and my whole life and my whole way of being in this supposed world had completely and utterly changed up so profoundly that it began to be shared more and more with other people. Throughout the last 13 years, there have always been a really close-knit group of people who at that time saw the dramatic change up in what was Zoe and how she perceived the world, and just wanted to kind of wanted the same thing, wanted to kind of like get that level of freedom. And so there's been a sharing of the direct experience here, but not anything to the extent to which it has now kind of become with these kind of meetings and stuff. So, well, what else? Okay, so it's got to a point now where when I sit here and I look up and I go, what else? There isn't actually any thought that comes in to say anything, which is really bizarre to get used to for a while and a bit strange, but as a kind of feeling, as a sensation. But there isn't anything that comes in, because all that's happening is the words that are coming out of the mouth spontaneously, as they always did. Because all that happens is thought narrates and rants and comments and judges and has opinions about what is happening. But in reality, it has absolutely no control over what's happening. And when this is seen, it absolutely loses its dominance and its power. And so awareness stops believing in it and it begins to fall away. And so now, certainly over the last kind of year or two, when it's really, really sunk in and dropped much more profoundly, there's even got to the point where, because there's no story running, because it doesn't come in about about supposed situations and what's unfolding and what people are saying and what might supposedly be happening, because that's not happening, there is no fear about anything. There is no anxiety or worry or stress about anything, which is total liberation, and just extraordinary as a way of living. And what happens is, as thought drops away and it stops ranting, and this kind of peace descends, and this kind of like silence and a whole bunch of other really cool stuff kind of comes in its place, the reality of what life is kind of really about and what's really going on is able to be seen. And the fact, or maybe the extent to which thought is projecting everything that's going on, is seen. And so when we don't believe something, when we don't buy into something as awareness, it completely loses its hold. So the journey's been really intense. It's been really crazy. But the level of peace and joy and calm and it's just extraordinary, because without thought talking, without thought saying anything, because it believes it's really important and it needs to be talking about everything that's going on, and when that stops, there's just the cockerel crowing, there's just the hum of the laptop, there's just the birds in the trees and the breeze, and that's it. And there never was any need for anything else. And Zoe got to a point where the suffering that it was creating, because she could never be good enough, she could never meet the expectations that she set for herself in here. She could never strive hard enough to be what she had decided she had to be, or the expectations that she believed other people had on her. and meeting those and holding up the weight of this existence that was all about chasing and getting and wanting and needing was just so painful, so painful. And when that's gone, you realize that actually it was only ever thought that was creating the suffering in the first place. And that without it, there can be no suffering. So we are conditioned to believe every single word that thought says without question. We never ever question who we are, what it's saying, why it's saying that, where is it coming from, what is it about. We're just conditioned to believe it's thought is what we are. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case at all. It is not what we are. It is what we watch. It is what we see. And you cannot be something that you can watch. You cannot be something that you can see. There is immediate space between it and you the minute you start watching what it's up to. So these videos and this bank of the videos of the meeting and the extra ones that maybe might unfold sporadically, I don't know, because there's no like idea about what's going to happen in an imaginary future that doesn't exist, so who knows. But these videos are here to support people to begin to watch, to observe, but not just to watch and observe and be present, but to question, to put in thoughts into that system like, but why? Is that relevant? To actually begin to question what it's up to and to break it down. And so that's what this is all about. And it's the only thing we're actually here for. Thought thinks it's here to chase jobs, to chase money, to get big houses, to get bigger cars, to chase society's version of success, which ultimately revolves around money and stuff and the concept of more. But in reality, that's all a game. That's not real. What we're really here to do is to wake up and to evolve as consciousness and to realize that we're being hoodwinked. As awareness, you are being hypnotized by thought and everything it says. And it's got you good. So watch the videos, enjoy. They're there as much as you want. And I'll see you at a meeting.